Hi everyone, I'm Melissa. Welcome to the Southern Institute of Technology's education program, the Certificate in General Horticulture. Well, there's no prizes in guessing what today's show's about. That's right, it's all about veggies. Here's what's on the show today. Get ready to get your hands dirty with Greg from Dyax and spice up your life with a touch of rosemary as we take a look at herbs. Last but not least, have the plumber round. We've got leeks. First up, we investigate a groundbreaking growing operation without the ground. There's no soil in this system. But as for the lettuces, they're state of the art. So you grow hydroponic lettuces, Robin?
Yes, we grow about 70,000 in this tunnel house here, which is about half of our business. We actually grow them in these gullies here, which we grow them in water, really just trying to replicate how they would grow in water. So that water is running down here all the time with the nutrients in it. So we actually add the nutrients and heat the water to try to provide the perfect environment, growing environment for the plant.
Gee, that's pretty high tech. So what are the nutrients that you add to the water?
We put all the same nutrients in as what you would have in your home garden, really, in the soil. So there's phosphate, potash, and you've got your magnesiums and calciums, nitrogen, plus a whole lot of minor trace elements, your copper and all that sort of thing, just the same as what they would actually need if they're growing in the garden, except we have it all computer monitored so that it's all added all the time to keep the growing environment as a perfect environment for the plant to get optimum growth and strong plants.
Gee, so how long does it take for the lettuces to grow to this size now?
Well, in this time of the year when it's so cold in the winter, it takes us probably up to 12 to 13 weeks at the very coldest of the winter, and depending on the amount of sunlight we have. In the summer we can, from seed to harvest, we can do it in 8 weeks.
So are most lettuces grown hydroponically these days?
Most of the fancy lettuces would be. In the summertime, there's some of these would be grown outdoors further north, but down south, no, I don't think you'd find many of these grown outside apart from the odd person in their home garden.
Right. So what sort of air temperature do they need to grow best?
Well, it's actually the temperature of the roots that's important to them. It's not so much the air temperature. So we try to keep the root temperature, which is the same as what farmers use as ground temperature, etc., at about 18 degrees C is actually the perfect growing temperature for them. But when it gets real cold in winter, we don't actually achieve that because the costs of heating to that extent are too much. So we don't actually heat the air, we just heat the nutrients that's running past the roots.
Right. So what's the benefits to having them hydroponically grown to just grown in the average garden?
Well, we can have a perfectly healthy plant because of the perfect environment we have and the optimum nutrient levels. So it's the perfect environment for them, so we grow good healthy plants. And in all honesty, trying to grow lettuce outside in Southland at the moment would be a bit of a joke.
Yeah. Do you have any problems with pests?
No, as long as our plants are healthy, they can generally resist the pests. And that's one advantage that we have of growing indoors like we do, is that providing that perfect growing environment, we have good strong plants.
So where will all these lettuces end up?
About half of them will end up in Southland supermarkets and the other half will end up on plates in restaurants. We actually process salads, lettuce salad for restaurants in Southland.
Great. It looks like trendy lettuce in restaurants,
yes,
doesn't it?
That's what they all want, yeah. And the restaurant does determine what we grow, like their demands are, they change what they want, and so over the years we certainly grow different lettuces now to what we used to grow when we first started.
Can we have a closer inspection to one of these lettuces?
Yeah, we can actually take them out there and you can see all their roots, and so that just sits in the gully with the water running past it, so it just absorbs the nutrients out of the water as it's travelling past. So once they come out of the nursery bench, they spend their life in that little hole until they're harvested.
Fantastic. And then once they've grown to their full size, you just come and take them all out?
Yes, we just take them out, and for the salads they obviously get cut off their roots, but for the supermarkets they actually go in a sleeve with their roots and all, so as they actually have a longer shelf life. So they keep better for the customer.
fantastic. You learn something every day. Thanks,
do.
Robin.
Hi, I'm Greg from Dyax, and today we're going to show you about a low maintenance, hassle-free veggie garden. So first of all, what we do is we're going to use some pea straw, and we'll just cut the strings and it loosens it all up. And you can spread this out in your garden. I'm not prepared to do it here, but you can spread it out a wee bit further, and just by loosening it up, and then you can get some compost and just sort of drop a wee bit in where you plan on doing your plants. All you need is a handful. Get it in there like that. And sprinkle a bit of, if you want to go organic, you can go organic with the organic slow release fertiliser. It has got a little scoop in here, so we'll just scoop this, sprinkle it along the top. Probably about 4 scoops of this to a bale would be about right. And you can plant a range of vegetables in this type of thing. Today we're going to be putting in some parsley, and we could do some silver beet. And just carrying along with all your favourite vegetables, lettuces, even potatoes, because the good thing about this is the pea straw will hold the moisture and keep nice and warm as it's composting down. So after you've done this, get the hose, stick it in and give it a real good soaking. And when it comes to your seed potatoes, when it comes to harvesting time, all you got to do is pull the straw apart, and they're all sitting in there nice and clean, just ready for your pot. So that's something worth trying this vegetable season, so good luck and all the best.
Imagine a plant that not only looks good, smells good and tastes good, but it's great for the body. We're talking about herbs, of course. Could they be the perfect plants? We'll find out.
Well, there's really no right and wrong way to grow herbs. Generally, anywhere in the garden, they're pretty hardy. They'll grow in most soils and in most conditions. They'll grow in pots and soil. It just doesn't really matter. Wherever you want them to grow, they'll grow. They're hardy. Generally, most herbs don't like it extremely hot, except of course Mediterranean herbs like the rosemary. Thyme, as we all know, grows in the heat of central Otago, so it doesn't mind a bit of dry, hot climate, but also grows down here equally well, so there's really no herbs that won't grow well in Southland that I know of. There are thousands. It's not just your parsley, sage and thyme that are herbs. Chickweed's a herb and dandelions are herbs. There's plants that humans use and have used for thousands of years that are herbs, so you really couldn't count them. It's just never ending. There's 3 main purposes for the use of herbs: culinary, medicinal and cosmetic. And there are some herbs cross over to all 3. Some are just purely medicinal, but most will cross over to the 3 different categories quite happily. A lot of the medicinal ones are good for cosmetics, so they cross over quite well. Medicinal herbs are usually more pungent or bitter, or you just wouldn't want to eat them in your food. But culinary herbs, of course, are generally what people know of as herbs. Your parsleys and thymes and marjorams and yes, all of those sort of herbs that people know quite well. Well, once again, the rosemary that's here, it crosses over all 3. You can use it for cosmetic, you can use it for culinary, and you can use it for medicinal. Medicinal herbs are like feverfew, which is good for headaches. It's hard just to... some of the balm plants are good for soaking feet or soaking arthritic hands in rather than culinary. It's just hard to think of. Another one that crosses over that is a herb is cranberry, that's become very popular. It's a good medicinal herb, and it's also a good culinary herb. So it's another one that crosses over as well. Some herbs have been used for thousands of years as pest control. They've in days gone by in castles and the little cottages, they used strewing herbs, and they were herbs for getting rid of the fleas and lice and all those sort of creepy crawlies. I have a mixture that I make when I put a roast on in the summer, and I just simmer it on the range, and it's wormwood, tansy, yarrow and mint, and they're insecticides. They get rid of the flies. Same thing as the strewing herbs, they get rid of the insects around the house. Lavender's a good one for getting rid of moths in cupboards and drawers. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a wee go at growing herbs and have lots of luck with them. It's fun and it's a natural way of life. It's what human beings are all about, is the things that grow around us.
It's as green and tough as the Hulk. Don't make these leeks angry. Let's head off to Wilson's veggie stall to find out more. How many different sorts of vegetables do you grow here at Wilson's Produce?
Oh, we probably grow a best part of about 20. Everything from zucchinis all the way down to artichokes, basically. Yeah, we try to grow as much as we can to sell it here on the property. That gives us a better margin against the supermarkets.
Fantastic. And what do you find is the easiest to grow?
Every plant has its little intricacies, you know, like carrots you can sow a couple of acres in an hour, and it takes a long time to harvest them, you know, in the mud. And then this time of the year you can take ages to plant a cabbage and a collie, but then it's very easily harvested. So everything has its pros and cons.
Right. So what about the leek?
Yeah, it takes a long time. Like you sow it in the start of September and you're not picking sometimes till like June, July. So it takes a long time to grow that one. Yeah.
So what's the initial thing you have to do when growing leeks?
Basically, because it takes such a long time to come through, any weed in its area will basically annihilate it. So we bring it here to a seed bed and we sow it in we put it in about 6 inches of a clean peat, and then we sow the leek seed in there, and that gives them the time to come ready, basically let them come up. And once they're up to about the size of a pencil, then we can transplant them into the paddock and they can handle life.
Right.
Yeah.
So how long does that take?
Probably in here till about the first week in November. So look, best part to 6 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on behind us here.
Yeah, yeah. This is last year's bed. These are the plants that got left behind. We go through, we take out the best ones. So, yeah.
How many different varieties of leek are there?
In my seed brochures from the companies, there's probably best part about 8 or 10 that you could buy. I just choose the best one that I think suits our environment for winter, and just our environment basically will grow best for us.
So you mentioned that there was peat in the bed. Do you add anything else to it?
Oh, we do put a fertiliser in with the peat so that they've got a bit of fertility to get going. And other than that, no, nothing else. No, just straight into it.
Okay. So after that sort of 6 week period's over, what do? You replant them?
Yeah, we go through here and we put a spade under them and just lift them out gently, trying to leave most of the roots on. And then they get planted out that same day, so you don't want them to die.
Yeah.
So they got to come out and go back in again straight away into the paddock. So they generally lie down the next day and think, oh, well, this isn't so nice, but within 2 days they're back up and going.
So do you often have problems where they sort of don't take to the new soil when you move them?
They generally handle it. As long as you leave enough root on the base, they'll come away. Yeah, they tend to be able to handle it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, shall we box over and have a look at the next stage?
Sweet as. Yep.
So what are the best growing conditions for leeks?
Well, they're called a gross feeder, which means they take a lot of fertility out of the soil. So you just need a good fertile soil generally, you'll need a summer to get them warm in the ground and keep them growing. They'll grow best in that summer period, and then they hold into the winter. So no, they grow quite well down here.
Great. So how do you put them into the soil?
We use a transplanter, and we can basically plant probably about 3,000 plants in there, so we can get quite a few in a day. Yeah. Yep.
And how long does it take for them to grow?
Oh well, these were sown as seed back in the start of September, and then they're transplanted in November. So and then from November we're July. So yeah, they're in the ground quite a few months. Yeah.
And what about the cold conditions? They grow okay in that?
Nothing tends to kill them that well actually. They'll handle the snow and the frost and everything. Yeah, they do handle our cold winters very well. Yeah, as long as they're up to size before April, they'll be fine. Yeah.
So once you put them into the ground, do you need to do much else to them?
Well, I suppose you could spray some grass and weeds out, but we don't get terribly passionate about that. So no, we just let them have a go at it. We do sprinkle some more fertiliser over them once they're in, just to sort of, just help them keep growing really, because they do love fertility. Yeah.
Fantastic. Can we have a look at one?
No troubles. Yep. Down in here, you basically have a root at the base, so we just slip a knife down, and it's usually enough to weaken it, and you just pull them up, and that's your leek. And we just trim them up so they look pretty for the shop, and you peel back any gross leaves or ugly looking stuff, and you have a plant that sort of, there you go, you should just be able to see that in the supermarket. There you go, how's that, looks alright?
Looks pretty good.
Need a bit of a wash to be right.
So how many leeks are there here?
We probably have best part of about 20,000 leeks we put in. We will probably sow about 30,000 seeds. It sounds a lot, but they come up like grass when you sow them, and you let them grow up to a decent size. So you're only taking your best seed all the way through, and these get planted out. There's about 20,000 here.
Gee, so what's the main purpose you grow them for?
Oh well, we just sell them in their own shop generally, yeah, and we'll get through them in the season.
Fantastic. Shall we go over to the shop then?
No troubles.
So is this the final destination?
Yeah, well, basically all the veggies come into the shop here, and we wash them up. Here's the leeks here that we picked out in the paddock before, and they just come here and they get trimmed up and washed, and then they're at the front. So yeah.
Simple as all that?
Oh well, apart from cold hands in the water and yeah, that sort of thing.
So do you have to clip the leaves very short?
It's just so that people don't want to pick it up and get mud falling out. So yeah, you do wash the dirt off. It's just nice. But people could actually you could trim it back harder.
So how much of this is cookable?
Basically just the bottom of your stem from here down. Yeah, it's cookable. Yeah. So the leaf just makes it look nicer.
So do you sell them packaged?
Oh no, we sell them all individually. That they'll probably do a family for a meal.
Really?
Yeah.
Gee.
So we just wash them up and put them out individually.
Fantastic. Shall we check them out on the shop floor?
Yeah.
I'll follow you. So have you grown most of these vegetables along here?
Most of the shelf was brought in. It's the time of the year and tomatoes need a bit of heat.
Right, fair enough. Leeks look good, don't they?
Yeah, they are nice. Yep.
So what's the most popular leek dish going around at the moment?
A lot of people will cook them in a soup. There'll still be old-fashioned mothers that'll cook them with a white sauce, but I don't tend to like it.
So do you have any tips for anyone who's wanting to grow leeks at home?
Give it a go and see how you go. yeah, yeah, yeah. They're a nice vegetable.
Yeah. Fantastic. So would you say they're pretty easy maintenance to grow? Or?
Oh, they don't have any pests. There's like, you're not going to get white butterfly or aphids or anything that's going to have a go at them. So they don't have any bugs. Yeah, yeah.
That's got to be a bonus.
Even the rabbits don't eat them.
Well, there you go. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, hello, it's Lindsay. Vegetables. Vegetables, one of the big things that we've discovered, and it came from France, was the French biodynamic intensive farming systems. We try and make the depth of cultivation match the root structure of the plant. Rhubarb, for an example, goes down an unbelievable depth, like a metre. You really need a metre of good food without any groundwater, and the plants will produce extremely well. There will be other plants we'll show you very shortly that behave in a similar fashion, and particularly your brassica group. And brassicas like compacted soil. So you plant your cabbage and you stamp all around it, it'll perform a lot better. But also match the depth of the soil slightly shallower, about 2 spade depths. We tend to be stuck to the spade depth mentality. If you try a double dig system, you will find your garden performs excellently, and also you can go away for a week and it won't dry out in the drought. So there's a lot of advantages. Right, what say we go and have a look at some broccoli over the other side. We've got broccoli here, that's part of your brassica group. They will handle a deep, about that deep, and you can produce broccoli that is easy 400 wide, just about unmarketable. These are the smallest out of all we've got now, as we're right at the beginning of the winter. So, but the same story, and you can tell whether your plant's got good nutrition by the colour of the leaf. And if they have got good nutrition, you'll find they're much more resistant to disease. We don't get too many pests at this time of the year. Aphids can be a bit of a problem at certain times of the year, but definitely nutrition is the way to grow your best brassicas.
They may not be as well known as myrtum, the southern sting, or bluff oysters, but they're part of the southern culture nonetheless. Of course, we're talking about the swede. Hello Grant, can you tell us what's the best way to grow swedes?
The best way to grow swedes? Well, for us in Southland, most of us don't go past a ridger. It's just a bit of machinery that puts swedes up in a small ridge, as you can see. And we use a ridger because it keeps the crop out of the mud, predominantly in the Southland winter. And of course, the good thing about a ridger too, it puts a band of fertiliser right in line in contact with your swede seed.
Fantastic. So how many lines does it do at a time?
Well, my ridger does four lines at a time, or 4 rows at a time.
It's amazing. There's a lot of swedes here. How many swedes will be in this paddock?
Oh, look, I wouldn't have the foggiest. You could, we're talking a million or so, are we? I don't know.
Gee.
I'm not a mathematician. I'm a cocky.
So how long do they take to grow?
These swedes would have been over 200, I think about 245 days by memory, but that could stand to be corrected. But these swedes would have been ridged in here late November, early December, and they would have been fit to eat by, this is June, by end of May, start of June. So work that out in days.
And once you plant them, do you have to do much work to them then, or do they look after themselves?
They predominantly look after themselves, but we do a little bit of work in the fact that we're a bit old-fashioned. We use what is called a scuffler, which is basically just an implement that weeds between the rows. So instead of applying a chemical spraying or anything like that, we use a scuffler, just that go up and down the rows at least once, just to weed in between the rows.
Right. And what's the main purpose of doing that? Just getting rid of all the...
Just getting rid of the weeds to keep your crop growing strongly. It releases nitrogen. There are figures out there for how much it does, but don't ask me exactly what it is right here and now. But yeah, or else nitrogen application is an important part of growing Swedes, but I've managed to get away with it with using a scuffler and the way we do it, yeah.
So what's the main purposes for the common Swede?
The common Swede, for me, the main purpose is winter feed. It gives us bulk winter feed where we can keep ewes fed and happy for a good part of the winter.
Right. So they all eat Swedes quite happily?
Oh yes, generally they eat Swedes very happily. So.
And what about, does your family eat their Swedes as well?
This is if I don't have a few Swedes, my wife growls at me. It's a culinary delight for a Southlander. It's a bit like a haggis to a Scotsman. So yes, we eat Swedes.
So is sort of damp, cooler conditions quite good for growing them?
Damn, no, they like their moisture, but they like sunshine as well. So sunshine is very important, but like everything that's growing, it still needs its moisture.
So do people grow Swedes all over the country?
No. That I say that with tongue in cheek. It's very much a Southland wintering system, but of course, yes, you see it up in Canterbury, and you will see them in up the rest of the country too. But predominantly, I understand Southland compared to the North Island and other places.
How many different varieties of Swedes are there?
These ones we're looking at here are what are called major pluses. They're well, I was going to say relatively new variety, but that's not correct now. They've probably been around nearly as long as I have. But there's Major Plus, there's what they call Dune Major, there's Highlander, there's second crop Swedes, which they put in after this, like Aparima. No, there are different varieties of Swedes for different sort of purposes, but Major Plus, Dune Major, Highlander would be your main first crop Swede for bulk of yield that you get, yes.
Right. And do they grow well in small patches, just the average person with a garden at home?
Oh, they could, quite easily, yeah. Yeah, no, you put a Swede seed in, it tends to grow.
Fantastic. Yeah. I might have to take a few home with me.
You're welcome, take as many as you like. I'll even pull them for you and chip the dirt off.
Can you show us how you pull them up? How easy do they come out of the ground?
Quite like that. Simple as that. And that's just an average size Swede. A lot of farmers looking at that might say that this is a small Swede. But I would like to think that this crop here has yielded, I haven't weighed it, but has yielded something like 12, 13, 14 tonne to the hectare. And if that's what it is, I'll be more than happy. But you get varieties. There's some bigger ones there.
Can I pull one out here?
Yeah, pull one out whatever you want.
This one looks a bit rotten actually.
It might be. But, oh, come on, pull.
Bit of a neck to it. Look at that. It's a good sized Swede.
Yeah, if I had a pocket knife, I'd just chip all that off for you.
Great. Thanks for that, Grant.
Thank you.
Wow, have you ever seen so many Swedes? You'll have to join us next week when we look at pomology, fruit. Here's what's on the show. Well, you couldn't ask for more as we head off to Central Otago. Get ready to sink your teeth into some juicy apples and lick your lips as we take a look at winemaking. Thank you for joining us for the Southern Institute of Technology's education program, the Certificate in General Horticulture. If you would like more information about this course, you can contact the team at SIT on 0800 SIT to Learn. See you next week.